I'm Sharon Constanson. I'm chairman of the South African Chamber of Commerce, which is based in the UK. The 2022 has brought with it a interesting, another dichotomy that we're having to deal with differently to what we've been doing over the last 2 years, where we've had to learn to be very agile and very resilient in terms of working out how to survive in different environments. Now we're given another set of challenges. How do we come out of that COVID environment? How do we manage ourselves? How do we manage our interactions with humans? How do we behave as though we haven't had a lobotomy of our emotions and our ability to engage? And we notice people are finding themselves very socially awkward. But anyway, today it's all comfortable because we're in a familiar environment where we're on a webinar. Can I ask all of you to please engage with us? The Q&A function is there for you to be using. Please do so. And please don't use the chat for questions because I might miss them. But please use the Q&A function and I will be picking those up and putting those to Cindy later in the session. The Chamber is getting very busy, as we said, into this new world. This new world involves real events where we actually see human beings, and it involves hybrid events and what we're having today, which is the webinar style only. On the 2nd of March in London, anyone who can get to London, we're meeting at Viva Bacchus Restaurant for drinks, which is our very belated winter drinks due to COVID. We are now meeting on the 2nd of March. And those of you who have a penguin suit and an ability to be near London on the 22nd of March, we'd love you to come and join us at the Mansion House, which is an opportunity that very few of us ever get, is to be able to go to a venue like Mansion House. So please, tickets are going quickly. Come join us. It will be an amazing event where South Africa can showcase where it sits on the map of trade. What we're doing in the Chamber to support being relevant to our population is to build a matrix of chapters, geographic and special interest. And those are giving people a very specific forum in which to engage, whether it be in their own local community, for example, where Cindy is in KZN, or where June is, who you can see who's in the Isle of Man. And we have a number of these chapters globally, where we are engaging with our members to be extremely relevant and to have a reason to join us, even though we might be based in London. We are no longer London-centric in any respect at all. The Commerce Centre is going to be another focus of the Chamber going forward, and we are going to be looking very, very specifically at increasing trade. So anybody who's looking to import, export, and do any other forms of activities between the two countries, please, it would be absolutely wonderful for you to make contact with us and see how we can help you both ways round. You're not here to listen to me. So my first job is to hand over to June. Now, June is the rock behind my day job. If it weren't for June waltzing through my diary, doing the cha-cha very regularly, kicking things in and out and getting them back into space, I wouldn't know where I am. So June is my absolute rock of an EA behind me. But the other aspect and the other role that June has, and she's got so engaged in the Chamber and lives in the Isle of Man and is our chair of the Isle of Man chapter, who is hosting tonight's event with Cindy. So at this point, June Whiteman, I'm going to hand over to you. And Cindy, good luck. I'll speak to you shortly.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And it is a great pleasure to have Cindy on the webinar with us tonight, and the Isle of Man chapter of the South African Chamber of Commerce is delighted to welcome Cindy and a global audience to our webinar. Cindy is South African and is a sought-after motivational speaker, business trainer, business coach, and mentor. She is a best-selling author and an award-winning charity head, and we look forward to hearing more about the Robin Hood Foundation this evening. Cindy does this whilst running her recruitment agencies, Pro Appointments and Pro Talent from her offices outside Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. Cindy's also won numerous excellence awards over her 28 years in business. And today, Cindy is going to don her author's hat and tell us about her book, How Does She Do It? Cindy, the title of your book resonates with me, and I'm sure I speak for many of us here. So please, will you tell us what inspired you to write? How does she do it?
Hi, everybody. June, thank you for that very, very awesome introduction. That was really, really kind of you. For 28 years, I've been running my own recruitment company. I've had a charity foundation for the last 17 years. And about 7 years ago, I wrote a book called How to Be Unstoppable. And I also do some coaching, and I always try and do challenging things that make me frightened. So I've done things like climb Kilimanjaro and run the London Marathon and do some other, just exciting things, and a lot of people always come up to me and say, how do you do it? How do you do it? I don't know how you do it. And it's kind of like been something I've thought about often and thought, I think people are asking the wrong question. I think so often we look at somebody who might have excelled in an area, and I think when we ask them, how do you do it? Basically, we are subconsciously sabotaging ourselves. And I think what a lot of people are doing is they put people on a pedestal, but then they make an assumption that everything else about that person is awesome. So I've been asked repeatedly to speak on the balance. Now, there's a saying, we teach what we most need to learn. And I think I speak all the time on the balance, but I have no balance. And I always joke, I tell the audience I'm a joke, and everyone laughs and they go, tell us more about the balance and tell us more about how to be a great mom. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm a great mom. So I think for me, it was more just putting the real into life. I think so many of us look at somebody who might be a little bit ahead of us in certain areas and think, gosh, they've got something I don't have. And the message in the book is basically, each one of us is really doing our best every single day. We don't wake up to make a mistake and to mess up. So I think so often we don't back ourselves. We don't realize that we're actually doing a really, really good job. The other thing is, if I can reveal my flaws to you as the reader about the mess, the foibles and all of my frustrations and my fears, maybe you'd look at that and go, gosh, you know what? She did that with all those negatives against her. Maybe I can do that too, So I think for me, it's a book about encouragement. It's a book with lots and lots of laughs. So I thought what I'd start off with, this is the book, How Does She Do It? And I just thought I'd start off with something from the beginning. So just to give you a little bit of an indication. When I stand up and present a talk, the first thing I do is to tell the audience that I don't have all my ducks in a row and that I'm not the poster girl for balance or success. I will then share a story or two about my life to reveal my flaws. For instance, there's the time I cooked chicken schnitzels for dinner, and my daughter, Lexi, gobbled up hers, wondering why it was so crunchy. It was still frozen. I once was in such a hurry to get Hannah to school that I drove out the garage with such speed, just missing my laptop that was leaning against the car tire, driving over her school bags and her iPad in my haste, dragging them down the driveway behind the car. Or there was this time when I was driving Hannah and Lexi home from school. Lexi had been eating a bright red lollipop and she threw it in the air. It went up, but it never came down, and nobody could find it. As I walked into the supermarket, one child in each hand, feeling like a ramp supermodel in my new work outfit, the car guard called me loudly, ma'am, ma'am. Turned around, he said, there's a lolly on your bum. How embarrassing. I could go on. I am a joke. And I think for me, for many people, humor isn't part of life. We're quite serious. We're quite, we're trying to put on these facades and everyone's always wonderful and great. And I think with this book, I've kind of written down, this is the behind the scenes, so you might see the success, but you don't necessarily see all the work. So what I thought I'd share with you today was just 3 elements from my book. There's 13 different chapters, but I thought I'd pick on 3 things that resonated with me. 2 are things that I struggle with, and 1 is something I do well. So the 2 things I struggle with are the saying no. I don't know if anyone on this call, maybe on the chat function, but I have spent my life just saying yes, yes, yes. And unfortunately, what it did is it built a brand for me, which is a beautiful brand. But, there's a dark side to the light chasers, as we know in one of those beautiful books. So if you look at the positive side, you'll say, oh, you've got a great brand. But I'm telling you the behind story. I'm telling you that beautiful brand is built on an underdeveloped backbone and an overdeveloped pleaser gene, an inability to say no. So I'm this type of person, if you ask me to do something, I'll have this massive cognitive dissonance between wanting to please you, but also wanting to guard my time and energy. And these monsters go on in my head. So if I got an email from you saying, would you like to mentor me? The answer is always no, because I just don't have capacity. And then I'd feel like I don't want to offend you. So I'd often say weak yeses. And I think this has led to a lot of people thinking I'm fantastic, but maybe me not thinking I'm fantastic. You know, Malcolm Gladwell says each one of us has 12 people in our lives that if they were to die, we'd be absolutely gutted. And so often, I think I've made that mistake of spending my time and energy on the nobodies and then never having much left for the somebodies, the people that really mean the most. So if I said to you, you know, I want to chat to you about self-care. If you did the list of the 12 people in your life, where would your name be? Would it be there? I think so many of us are spending so much time doing things for everybody else that at the end of each day, we like that sucked mango. You know, mango starts out beautiful, juicy, ripe. Anyone from Durban, you know, we've got beautiful mangoes. But by the end of the day, you've got those 3 little yellow hairs and they're sitting there and you're thinking, oh, I can't do this. But what happens when you're at the end of a year and you're thinking, I cannot have another year like this year? How often have I looked in the mirror and thought, if I have another 5 years like these 5 years, I'm going to not be alive. I'm exhausted. I'm worn out. I'm shattered. So for me, you know, when I'm talking on the balance, I'm talking from a place of I don't have it right. I don't even have a clue. But I'm on a journey. I'm on a journey. And one thing I've realized is I've got to learn to say no. I've got to say no to other people so that I can say yes to my goals. And so often. And there's a season for everything. When you start out in business, you say yes to everything. You know, you go to every network group, everything. But I do believe that saying no is actually a superpower. So something I've realized about saying no is sometimes I've got a friend who taught me something. She said, don't say no, write it. So if whenever somebody asks me something, I'll ask them to email me and then I'll write it. No, it's so much easier. I've got a friend who's very, very confident and assertive, and her husband's mild-mannered. She always says to people, no, my husband wouldn't like it. And she gets away with murder. And I think sometimes you've got to work out, you know, what we're going to say no to, what we're going to say yes to, because I think as we get older, what we realize is our pot of energy is diminishing. And the one thing I think, you know, I often used to think time is the most valuable resource in life, but it really isn't. It's energy. What's the point of lying there on a Friday night, watching The Bachelor, drinking wine, wishing you had the energy to do something? Sorry, that's just my life. But, you know, I think it's so, so important. So I had this philosophy, and I still have it to a certain degree, but I've filtered it a little bit, where it was give everybody more than they have any right to expect all the time. You know, and I had this mantra when I started out in business. I want to be an inspiration to everyone I meet. Please don't try that at home. It's exhausting. And sometimes you don't need to inspire everyone you meet. Sometimes you can just be a person in the world and not this massive inspiration, because I think it comes at a cost. So for me, what I realized is that I hated making unpopular decisions. I don't know if anyone else on this call gets that, but just that feeling of like, oh no, I have to say no. Unfortunately, as we grow and as our responsibilities grow, we've got to learn to say no. So I liken it to, remember when you were 18, remember that beautiful 18-year-old you were, and you had a suitcase of responsibilities in life. It was light. It was light. There wasn't a lot in it. Your biggest concern might have been your girlfriend, boyfriend, your party life, your student life. Now, 20, 30 years later, you've got the 2.5 kids, you've got the bond, you've got the dog, you've got the insurances, you've got the job. And suddenly that suitcase is very, very heavy. So one of my suggestions is to periodically do a spring clean of what is in your suitcase, and to say, you know, does this still fit? Is this serving me? Or can I travel a little lighter in the world? So when the pandemic hit, I sat down and I looked at my life and I thought, I am literally overcommitted. I was on every single committee, and I got off, I think, three or four committees or boards in one foul swoop, just because I felt this is ridiculous. I don't have a life. So I think something I've learned, and I just thought I'd share a few tips that I've learned the hard way. Just because somebody says they want to meet you doesn't mean you have to meet them. You know, so often people have done those emails. I want to explore synergies. Run when you get those. Okay, it's one-sided. They want something from you. The other thing I've realized with Zoom is my face-to-face time is my scarcest commodity. So often people say, I'll just want to meet with you. And what I now do is make them do some work. I'll email them and say, what is it in connection with? Can you tell me what it is? What is the purpose? Most people actually aren't even prepared to do that work. So why would you give up your time if somebody else wasn't able to do that? I also have a philosophy that I've been living by over the last few years. Don't put your urgency on my agenda. Just because you need it done doesn't mean that I'm actually going to do it for you, because my pre-planned goals are there. And it's not about being inflexible. I think it's just about learning to, instead of becoming a panic mechanic and stressed out to the high heavens, learning, what, that isn't my drama. So, they're saying, not my circus, not my monkey. I think that applies as well. The other thing I've learned in life is, I love to give, but not everybody's a giver. A lot of people, I can even understand the traders. I do this for you, you do that for me. But in life, there are a lot of takers. There are people who say, can you meet me? Yes, sure. Can you have a coffee? No problem. Can you do this for me? No problem. And then guess what? They say one good turn deserves another. And the next month or the next week, it'll be another request. So I think it's been an interesting experience in life to kind of look at people and say, there are givers, there are traders, and there are takers, and to know when to stop with the takers, because your energy is your scarcest commodity, and sometimes people do take advantage of our good natures. So I think one of the things I've been trying to focus on is teach people how to treat you. So if you said to me, oh, don't you want to come and do a talk in my home on Thursday night? No, I don't want to do that. I definitely won't do that. What will you and won't you do? And even now, people on this call, how many of you, your boundaries have slipped? You are now working past 7 at night, past 8 at night. You're working weekends, and it's not healthy. It's not where you need to be. Maybe now is the time to say, I actually now need to re-educate people how to teach me. We are coming out of the other end of this COVID pandemic, and maybe I need to start again, because I need to get that balance right, whatever that balance looks like for me. Also, often people ask me things, and I've learned the power of silence. They say the first person who speaks in a negotiation is the loser. So often people will ask me something cheeky. I can't believe it. And I'll sit there looking astounded. And then they'll say, oh, okay, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And then I haven't had to say anything. So that's a good thing to do, I think, for me. The other thing I've realized is don't give 1,000 reasons. Just say no, and go, thank you. Sometimes what I do when somebody asks me something really cheeky, I go, hell no. And I look at them, and then they tend to sort of keep quiet, which is a great thing. But another thing I've realized is that many of us started getting addicted to FOMO, the fear of missing out. So you get an invitation, you say yes, and somebody says, can you meet me? How many of us, our diaries often looked like one commitment after the next, and we literally don't have any margin. And I don't know about you, but I'm in pursuit of white space. I'm in pursuit of margin. I'm in pursuit of beautiful big gaps of time where I actually don't have to be engaging with the world, where I can actually work on my agenda. So I really think it's funny, I'm married to a man who's the king of JOMO, the joy of missing out. And I think we need to turn our FOMO into JOMO if we want to have a balance in life. And I read this the other day. It said the secret to success is not to say no to the things we don't want to do. It's to say no to the things we do want to do. And most of us on this call are probably passionate people. We love what we do. But if we're doing everything all the time, we're going to deplete our energy, and we're going to end up being pretty useless. So I saw this saying the one time, and it really resonated. I'm sure you all know about it, but it says, you are enough, you do enough, you have enough. And I remember looking at that going, oh my gosh, I'm so unfulfilled that I'm constantly looking for the next thing. And it leads me to do more, be more, have more, and overdo everything. So just something that I've learned is to try and find what is the perfect measure, and then give that to life, give that to everything that I'm doing. Another thing I realized is often I'll sit there and I'll be like, oh, I don't know what to say. I want to have a balance. I don't want to do this. I want to do this. There's a saying, if you battle to make a decision, it's because you're possibly unsure about what your values are. And sometimes I'll sit there and I'll go, you know what, I want to be liked, but I want to guard my energy. And then there's the war within. So I think it's so important. And something I recently decided was I used to have harmony as one of my top values, and it really wasn't working for me. You know, do things at any price, peace at any price, no conflict, be the peacemaker. I realized that harmony wasn't serving me. So I actually changed it, and I put courage as my top value and harmony further down. Now, the weird thing that happened, because I'm courageous, I'm doing those 5 seconds of courage where you have to say to somebody, I need to talk to you. I need to change something. I'm not happy. And all of a sudden, guess what? There's more harmony because I'm speaking my truth. So I'm not a pushover. Now, I know so many people, and I often speak to specifically women in business. And you know what they say? They'll often say, you know, when you ask them, how are you? I'm stressed. I'm hectic. I'm exhausted. If you were to share in the chat, if I asked you, how are you feeling now? How many are you saying, I'm living my best life? I'm amazing. I'm fabulous. And I think it's so, so important. One of the things, if we want to have a balance in our life and kind of live our best life, we don't want to turn self-deprivation into a virtue. That's so last season. We want to look after ourselves. We want to practice self-care. So for me, things that I'm working on is I'm trying not to say yes for the wrong reasons. I want to say no for the right reasons, if that makes sense. And then I think in terms of just that work-life balance, you know, I do a lot of these talks on how do you fill your cup. You cannot pour from an empty cup. But if I were to ask you honestly, if you sat there right now, and I've got this glass of water, it's just over half full. It's not wine, I promise. And you know, so many of us, we are pouring and pouring and pouring. And one thing I've learned is the best thing I can do to the world, the best thing I can do for my family, is to get my cup full to overflowing. And I just wanted to share with you just a couple of little tips on what I think we can do to get our cups overflowing, because I think so many of us have been through hell and back in the last 2 years. We've endured, we have literally just survived and gotten through. Not many of us have thrived. Not many of us have lived our dreams, our bucket list, we've forgotten about them. Our goals have literally disintegrated and evaporated. So I think for me, just a couple of things I wanted to share with you is ask for help. If you need help, ask for help. You know, I know a lot of you have families. You know, during the lockdown, I had a lot of family meetings with my family saying, this has to change. This week, there's 50 tasks or 20 tasks. Who's doing what? Pick one, pick 5. And also dropping my standards. You know, I find a lot of people are hard on themselves, and then they're perfectionistic. Dinner must be perfect. You know, their child's having a birthday, they have to make a cake from scratch. And I'm sort of saying, why don't we start rebelling against all those shoulds? We live under a tyranny of shoulds most of our lives. We do everything we should do. But I think a question I've started doing is asking myself is, who cares? Who cares? If it's just me, maybe I don't need to do this. I want to share with you a story of a lady I know. She's 85. She was a housewife for most of her life. She had 3 boys. And the one day she came to me at one of my seminars and she said, I want to tell you how many years of my life I wasted. She was a perfectionist, or still is, I think, a recovering perfectionist. And every morning she would wash and iron her children's, her little boys' sheets, pillowcases, and pajamas every single day. In your life, what are you ironing that shouldn't be done? Sometimes we're doing things very efficiently, which should not be done at all. And we wonder why we're so busy, but we're just doing it because we've always done it. I think one thing the last 2 years have taught me is to reevaluate absolutely everything. You have one beautiful, fantastic life. You know, is this serving you? Is this time for a season? You know, and maybe it's the end of a season as well, to say in the most gracious way, this is over because this is a new season for me. And I'm coaching so many people, and I'm speaking all the time to people saying, I don't feel like I have the balance. And I don't feel like I have the balance either. I really don't know if there's such a thing. All I know is that we've got different areas of our lives, and we kind of have to be, I think, an object in constant motion, but constantly looking at which area needs work at that moment in time. But I do know that when you're not looking after yourself, it's very hard to be a great wife, father, mother, you know, husband, sibling, employee, manager. So yeah, I would really, really encourage you. That it's something I've been working on. Other things I've done is guilt. Whenever I feel guilty, I ask, who am I guilty to? So years ago, when my children were small, I would feel so guilty leaving work early because they were my staff working till 5 o'clock or whatever in the office. Then I'd rush over to the daycare at the school, and there would be my little children's faces look through the gates, looking at you, Mommy, what took you so long? And then I'd feel guilty to them. And I think it's such a wasted emotion. I think we are all doing the very best we can with the knowledge we have. Maybe we need to up our game and change things, of course. But I think so many of us are so hard on ourselves. We are guilty, we are exhausted, and we just keep whipping ourselves. So I think for me, one of my pieces of advice and something I'm really trying to do is to say, wherever you are, be there, be in that moment. This is the best place for you right now. And I think that's so, so important. I've also learned to say no to my children. Mommy, I want to do 15 extramurals. No, you're not, because who's going to take you? I'm not taking you to 15 extramurals. They say a woman's place is in the kitchen. I don't know if you've heard that, but I think my place is in the car. I spend too much time in the car. I don't know how many of you feel the same way. And I certainly don't believe a woman's place is in the kitchen, as you could tell from my story. So I just think the one time I just wanted to share with you, I was driving home with Hannah, and it was a half-an-hour drive. I put her in her car seat. A half an hour later, we're at home, turned around, looked at her and said, oh, my baby, I haven't spoken to you. I was so in my head. But how many of us are so busy working and shoulding and doing and grinding? And that's all we do. Every day is a chore. I think we've got to lighten up. I think having a balance is having a balance between the heaviness and the levity, having the balance between present and past and future. Most of us are living in the future. The balance is also between living in your body and living in your head. Most of us are living in our heads. And I don't know about you, but a couple of years ago, I made up a happiness list. A friend of mine suggested that every single day of our lives, we need to do something that makes us happy. And I don't know about you, but maybe so many of us on this call might have been doing a lot of duty, working, surviving, getting through. So I did up my list, and my list includes random things like drinking wine, but that's just me. Don't hate me. Running on the beach, walking in the forest, reading a book, visiting friends, socializing, theaters, movies, afternoon naps, playing with my dog. Most of these things don't cost money. But what I've started doing is intentionally every single day adding something into my happiness list. And just to finish off, Lexi, my little one, the one day we were driving in the car, and she was just saying, Mommy, look at the clouds, look at the clouds. And it was a beautiful cloudy day. And she said, that one looks like a boat. Oh, Mommy, that one looks like a sheep. And I said, oh, Lex, I was like that. When I was little, I used to play with the clouds and I used to make things. And she said, why did you stop? And I actually got quite teary. I kind of gulped and I said, I think I just got old. I got like boring and serious. How many of us feel like we've just so boring, so serious, and we just kind of lost our mojo? And I think it's time to claim it back. I think that's what balance is about. Work is hectic. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'm going to finish off this section with Lexi's oral that she wrote when she was about 10. It's called, I Think My Mother's Trying to Kill Me. And I've got the proof. Well, let's start at the very beginning. Ever since I was in grade R, I've packed my own lunch and made my own sandwiches. Who lets a 6-year-old loose with a bread knife? On the subject of food, every meal that my mom makes is like an episode of Fear Factor. You never know what you're going to get. One evening, while she tells a story about the schnitzel, okay, I'm not going to do that. If this doesn't make your stomach turn, let's discuss the devil juice. Every few months, my mom goes on a diet and makes devil juice with the most revolting vegetables she can find, including spinach, beetroot, celery, ginger, and kale. Ew. And then she chases me around the house with 10 rand in her hand, bribing me to drink this ghastly concoction. When I refuse, she corners me with a menacing look and won't leave until I've finished every last drop. My mom is always in a hurry, and every trip in the car involves me bracing for impact as she ramps the speed bumps in our estate. Every day, as we are driving through the school parking lot, Mom shouts, "Jump," even though the car is still in motion. Does she think we are ninjas? She has certainly earned the reputation of the tuck and roll mom. So I'm going to end off there because I see time is running by, but I hope you enjoyed a few of those little snippets from my little book. Thank you.
I don't know if I should laugh or cry with you. It's actually amazing. And there were so many things as you were talking that were correlating to things in my life. And you were talking about looking for the white space. A couple of people who might be on this line, but particularly June, knows there's none in my diary. It's covered by green because it belongs to the chamber, or blue because of this, or red because of that, or orange because of that, or whatever it is. And at the beginning of the day, one of my other staff members might say to me, "How are you going to get through today? It's double booked. There's so much." I said, "Don't worry. It always sorts itself out. People cancel, things morph, they move, and it's just going with it, not allowing it to stress." So that is the one thing I have had to learn, is just let it happen in the way that it's going to. But anyway, we're not here to listen to mine. Have you got any tips that you could give us in terms of daily habits that we might find supportive to create that balance that you're talking about?
Sharon, I think I'm a firm believer in plan tomorrow today. So I never arrive in the day with no plan. And I think that would be a starting point. So, we want to have a great day. It doesn't start that day. It starts the day before, when we're planning the day and getting everything prioritized and ready. So, there's this global movement at the moment. If you look at this 5 a.m. club by Robin Sharma, so it's early to bed, early to rise. There's all these basic habits. There's a book called Make Your Bed. Even if you do nothing else in the day, just your bed's made and you come home and you've got a made bed. I think that's an important thing. There's a lot of talk at the moment about breathing exercises. A lot of people are literally oxygen starved and incredibly stressed. So I think breathing is a fantastic to try, even if it's 5 intentional deep breaths 3 or 4 times a day. I think that works incredibly well. So for me, I think it's the most important thing is how you start your day and how you end your day. So having some rituals, even if it's 2 or 3 things that you always do every morning. So what I used to do was I'd wake up in the morning and go, "Oh, I'm so hectic. I've got so much to do." I'd jump out of bed frantic. And that's really not helpful for anyone. And then the house was like Beirut, literally. So what I've done is I have this moment when I wake up every morning. There's no phone next to me. The phone's like maybe 10 meters away. And I turn it off and I go back to bed and I lie there and I'll say, what is my purpose? What is the one thing that will make today great? Sometimes we major in the minor things. We always have a million emails. We always have phone calls. We always have those things. But what would make today great? What would be the one thing that would make today great? And then to ask yourself, what is my purpose? And then, the basic things, praying or meditating, gratitude. I spend a lot of time on gratitude. I write down gratitude every single day. I also have a kindness journal. I know this sounds random, but I write down the kind things I do and the kind things that happen to me, because I don't want to be a taker and I don't want to be a trader. I want to be a giver in life, because that's the space of rare air. It's really, really a beautiful space to live. Journaling is like praying on paper. So often we are so filled with wisdom, but we don't stop to record it. So imagine, often I've written things and then read them months later and I think, gosh, I know it's my handwriting. I can't believe I'm that wise person who wrote that down. We take moments to record our lives. And they say the unexamined life is not worth living. I also think reading something inspiring, whether it's the Bible, a devotion, an autobiography, something self-development related, listening to podcasts, TED Talks, I think those are important things. And then moving. How many of us are zoomed to death? We are not moving enough. So I've recently started with a personal trainer and we're doing all these stretches and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So I think moving more. They say sitting is the new smoking. Getting outside into nature, grounding in the soil, sitting in the soil with your feet and your body in the soil. It reduces so many things. So I think those are pretty much my habits. And then to reduce things such as social media, TV, news, anything that's electronic, even Netflix. I've realized that it's designed to loop you in. As you're sitting there, if you don't jump up quickly, you're watching the next series. So I think being intentional, I think that's the word, is being intentional. I'm going to have a great day today and tomorrow, but this is why, because I have goals, and even writing them down every single day. This is what I want to achieve. I think that's what I'd like to share with you on that.
Wow, that is amazing. You said it was haphazard and all over the place. It really was an amazing shopping list. I did my best to catch some of those. Really, really appreciate them. A lot of them resonating. And we have one or two questions coming in, guys. So please, if you want to add some more, I will definitely get them to Cindy shortly. You were talking about giving, being a giver, a trader, a receiver. But you also talk about generosity. Now, is that generosity of emotion, generosity of time, generosity of knowledge? How does that generosity bring you personally the added value, and how does it help the other person?
To me, generosity means just giving of yourself. So it is, I think that question, so many people say, I can't afford to be generous because I have no money, or I think it's whatever's in your head, heart, and hands. So it could be, for instance, on the way here, I thought of a friend who's going through a tough time, and I sent her a voice note just to say, thinking about you, how are you? It could be when you are on social media, sharing somebody's business information, those 5-minute favors. Every day when I'm driving to work, I try and connect with one person just to say, how are you? Just thinking about you. Those are simple things that we can do. Generosity, obviously in South Africa, there's a lot of poverty. So looking for opportunities to do somebody good who will never return the favor, who never will be able to return the favor. I think those are beautiful moments. When we do that, we walk a little taller, and I think generosity as well in business. I coach so many business owners, and they are the reason their business is failing. I'll give you examples. People will never give a free sample, a free consultation. They'll never, ever. And as a result, nobody experiences what they've got. So whenever I'm coaching somebody and their business isn't successful enough, I always say, you're not generous enough. How will you apply generosity as your guerrilla marketing strategy? And it works every time. I've given away so many speeches and so many books. And there's this beautiful saying. It says, give away more than anyone you know, and soon you'll have more than anyone else you know. It's a beautiful strategy. And even if that person doesn't give it back, it's a karmic thing. It's not about getting it back. It's just about putting it out there. You feel better in yourself. And true giving. So true giving means Sharon, it's her birthday and I give her £100. It's my birthday. She gives me nothing. And it's like, you know what? It's not about you dead to me. It's about, you know what? I gave you that. Or I give you the £100 or whatever, and you go and give it to a beggar. And then I'm indignant. I go, but how could you do that? Well, it's no longer mine. It's yours. So I think generosity, another thing about generosity, what do we all want? We want to be heard. We want to be listened to. So, when we say to somebody, how are you? How are you really? And then we stop, we listen. So, I read a quote and it says, attention is the rarest and most sincere form of generosity. How often do we not pay attention to the people we love the most? The average father apparently spends 27 seconds per day, quality time per child. We can do better than that. We can do better than that. And I think that's an important thing. So for me, generosity is not about buying your kids toys and, going crazy for Valentine's. I see those beautiful roses behind you, Sharon. But it's just about showing up. It's about showing compassion. And in business, we can always say to the client, let me do this for you. Let me do that for you. Obviously not being taken advantage, and knowing that fine line between being generous and being exploited, and walking that beautifully.
And I think that gives one of the things you were talking about right at the beginning is, why do I do it? I actually do that for me.
Yes.
Because that gives me the personal stroke that makes me smile. It is one of my purposes. So it's interesting that some of the things you're talking about, how they are in the circle of life, of them giving the positivity back to yourself. Another thing I wanted to just run by you. You talked about some of the things you do, like sitting in the mud. I'm going to have an image forever of Cindy in the mud with a lollipop on her bottom. Sorry, it's going to stick. Having fun, you talk about having a glass of wine. For example, for me, the most important time of my day is right at the end. Doesn't care what time it is. I don't care whether it's midnight or 2 o'clock in the morning. A glass of champagne and talk to my partner. And actually find out, how was your day? What did you do? And listen, because I actually want to know. So if you look at some of the routines, that for me is one of my routines. And for me, it is a fun thing to do. It gives me the warmth. What things would you recommend to people they should be doing so that they're not living the lobotomy of life that we are at the moment, where all the peaks and the troughs are cut off? How can we feel fully, whether we're at the top or the bottom?
So I think it's about remembering what we love, remembering what brings us alive. So what do I feel passionate about? I think so many of us have forgotten because we're so busy doing, we're so busy just, as you said, that drudgery, and it literally sucks out any creativity. I would encourage everybody on this call to start their bucket list again. I would encourage you to start to make up a vision board, to start setting some goals that you think, oh my gosh, if I do this, I'll be so excited. And I'll give you an example. I went to a Women's Day event last year, and a friend of mine stood up and she was speaking, and she said, I've just written another book. And I sat there and I thought, oh, I want to write a book. And I was so cross with myself. Then I drove home and I thought, I can write a book. And I wrote it literally in 19 days. I wrote the book, and then it took nearly 2 months of editing. but the thing is, so often we don't give ourselves permission to think big. And I think I would encourage you, it's time to take off that cloak of hibernation and that sort of heaviness of that despair that we've been through, and to say, what would make my life, never mind make my year, what would make my life, what would make my decade? What is that big thing I always wanted to do but never had the courage to do? And I think, and that's why I said courage is one of my top values. A lot of people, even with my first book, I had a friend who said, what made you think you could write a book? I said, I never thought I couldn't. And each one of us can. And I think in my book, that's what I'm trying to encourage people, is that you have a hero inside of you. You just forgot him or her. You might have just dumbed them down a little bit in that lobotomy of life that you described. And I think for us to find, Walt Disney, he had that question, would the child you were be proud of the adult you've become? And that's such a beautiful question, because when we look in the mirror, we go, flip, I'm boring, flip, my life is not where it's going. Well, that's a great time to say, right now, you know what, I'm going to become a little bit lighter in the world. I'm going to laugh every day. I'm going to have fun. This morning I had a drama with a call center, and one of those days where you're frustrated. I got in the car and I laughed for a minute. I looked like an absolute idiot, but I instantly felt better. So I think it's about being intentional, and then set those goals. I know a lot of us are saying, oh, we can't travel here, we can't do this, but what can I do? So many of us have changed our speaking. Our words are not serving us, and our thoughts, because we're talking about what we can't do. I'm not here to talk about what you can't do. If I can write a book in 19 days, I think you can achieve that big goal that you want. And you've heard, I'm not the poster mom. I'm not, I'm a mess. But the thing is, I think we're all a beautiful mess. I think we need to just embrace life. I don't want you to get to the end of your life and go, I lived it so mildly and tamely and meekly. Surely we owe ourselves something better than that. So, for me, I've worked out socializing. I love socializing. So I've got a big surprise party for a friend next week. I hope she's not on this call. I'm so excited for her. And I'm supporting another friend's business with 10 friends. Every day is an opportunity to connect with people, and people make the world go round. Love is what, so how, love made visible, I think is something. So what do you love doing? Then do more of that. What do you hate doing? Stop it, and it's that easy. And I think, in the last 2 years, it's been called the Great Resignation. I think people have started realizing, wait, I don't love that. So, but I think a lot of people, what they're doing is they're running from, they're not running towards. So they know what they don't want, but they're not necessarily crystal clear on what they do want. So I'd encourage you, what brings you alive? Do your happiness list, be the party starter. So many people say, oh, I don't have the confidence. Well, you've got to start something to grow. Start, invite 2 people, one person, hang around positive people, do the things that inspire you. Think when you were 7, what made you happy? Do more of those things. I think that's important. And then just remember that whoever you surround yourself with is going to have an impact on you. That's in the real life, that's in social media, and I think that's so important. And get off that phone, get off electronics, just start making things happen. So for me, exercise, beautiful. It's if I exercise, I feel like $1 million afterwards, not before, not during, but afterwards. And I think, you know what, we need to make ourselves proud. We need to make your own self proud, because nobody else is going to do it for you, and you owe it to yourself to do those things. So I'll give you an example. This year, I've hired an executive coach, I've hired a VA, I've hired a personal trainer, I'm back at my homeopath. I am intentionally carving and creating the best life for myself, because nobody else is going to do it for me. Nobody is coming to save you. You have to be your own hero. So if things aren't working, you know what a lot of us do, and what a lot of us have done in the last 2 years, we moan, we whine, we complain, we are resigned to our fate. But you can also fight it. You can also say, no more. I've been there, I've done that, and you know what, I'm a new being. 2022, this is going to be my best year yet. And it's really a mindset. And no matter what happens to you, it's how you feel about it. So I think make fun, have fun, and when you're having fun, take almost a snapshot. This is me having fun. This is beautiful, and fun doesn't have to be expensive. Most of the things on my list don't cost a thing. And as I said, a lot of those things are acts of service. Doing something for somebody else can be a lot of fun.
I just want to ask you 1 or 2 questions. Quite a few questions have come in from the floor, but sure. I want to ask one of them, which I think is just quite different to what you have been covering. And then I want to hear more about your foundation before we have to close off in a few minutes. As women, we often feel that we can see the future, that we know what's coming, that we have that gut feeling. And we say, don't do X, don't do Y, because, or what happens, this might happen. Is this anything that you've ever encountered, feel a strong feeling about? How do we get people to listen to us if we feel we have a knowledge about something that is imminent?
So I do believe women specifically are very gifted often with strong gut instincts. It doesn't mean men aren't, but I think, whenever I haven't listened to those instincts, there's been trouble. So I'm a firm believer in gut instinct. It's there for a reason. It's basically, you've got a system in your body. It's and it's there telling you. It's every cell in your body is screaming something. When that happens, you'd be a fool not to listen to it. And I think, and that's wisdom. I think I consider that wisdom, discernment, and judgment. So. And judgment, not in a negative way, but having good judgment, sound judgment. So I would definitely say, if you had a feeling, so I have it often with a business meeting or something related to my kids where I go, I don't feel right. I think you need to shout loudly when that happens and let people know, trust me on this. And I've often done that, and it's proven me right. Yeah.
In the business world, I find I coach boards. And women are particularly good in a risk committee because they can see things that others, it's not evidence, it's not written down, it's not black and white in front of them, but a woman can put all the parts together and see a picture that the rest can't see, which I find is an extremely valuable talent. And the question was, how do we get people to listen? I think proving that how often you're right. But let's have a couple of moments on the Robin Hood Foundation. Tell us a little bit about where it came from, what does it do, and what's its future?
So, I'd been running my business for about, I think, 12 years or so, and I was one of those people who I really wanted to make a difference in the world, but I was so busy running my business. I didn't really have much time. So I'd do like the annual charity drive or whatever. And then when my second daughter was born, I realized she had so many baby clothes. I decided to start a project called Love the Babies, making up a new bag of clothes for needy mums based on all the friends I had who had babies. And then it's grown significantly. So we have one staff member, but a team of about 60 volunteers. We all donate our time. And we are building a crèche this year. We've built 3 in the past. We've built a house. We've hosted entrepreneurial conferences for thousands of people. And we've got so many projects on the go at the moment. We're uplifting an orphanage. We are creating some empowerment projects in Hammersdale. So it's incredibly exciting. We have a thing called the Sami Army, choose your shoes. We've got all these dorky slogans, but it's so much fun. And we had chicken stew for the soul. During COVID, we made 500 liters of chicken stew a day for about 5 months. And yeah, and we just basically, it's called Robin Hood. We don't steal, we ask nicely, we take from the rich and we give to the poor. So I have companies phoning me every day saying, I've got excess stock, or I've got something, could you use it? And our role is to find a creative solution where we can put it into the hands of the poorest members of society. So it's incredibly exciting, and it's received a lot of attention from corporates, from people who've got time. Yeah, we've really, it's been nearly 17 years. In 1st of May, it'll be 17 years.
And how much of the content of your book, the learnings that you have got in life, the wisdom you shared with us today, how much of that has come through your foundation activities?
I think there's been a lot. Firstly, it's been probably the purest side of me. You know, in business, we're always going into business to do deals and to make money and be profitable. With this has been sort of like soul work. This has been something, it's been purposeful, and it's been hugely rewarded. So I think it's colored everything. You know, it's colored everything. You know, they say the fundamental difference between people is those who see miracles and those who never do. So I walk around and everything's a miracle. And I have this saying, the universe is conspiring to make me happy. I'm so blessed, and I just have to pass it on. So I think that comes across very, very strongly in the book. I always believe, you know, we've all got something, that thing that bugs us, the thing that we think, oh my gosh, I wish somebody would do something. And I love the saying by Lily Tomlin. She said, you know, always wondered why somebody didn't do something about that. And then I realized I was someone. So I think, and when we do that, something that we know we were meant to do or should do, it does color the rest of our lives, because you start seeing all that favor, and you just start seeing that it just works. It just works, and you just know this is something, I'm onto something. So yeah, it's inspired
the balance of how to say no in that environment.
Exactly.
Must be far more challenging.
Exactly.
Than saying no in a commercial environment
100%.
or even a family environment.
Yeah, no, it's a unique space, but you know, it's been amazing. I love every minute of it. Every project is amazing, and we just attract the most awesome people. But there's a saying in life: you don't attract what you want, but what you are. So if you surround yourself, if you've got beautiful people around you, you're probably a beautiful person. You know, I think own it if that's the case.
There's a statement made on the Q&A section where somebody said have we been in a way honored by having been given this pause button the pandemic has brought to us? And if that is the case, how would you advise people to use that pause button if they haven't already done so?
I think it's been, I mean, everyone's calling it the Great Reset. And I think if we haven't reset something, then that's incredibly foolish. Or it means that we were living in such alignment, in such perfect alignment that nothing needed to change. But remember, there's a saying, if the rate of change outside of your world, outside of you as a microcosm, is greater than the rate of change inside, you're doomed for extinction. So I think we've got to change. We've got to look at things and go, what have I learned? And to be honest with you, I didn't do this very well in the start of the lockdown. I went into this rescuer mode, like this complete and utter crazy person. I don't know if anyone else did this, but I decided I was going to save people and do this and do that, and to my detriment. So I think it's only been recently where I've been going, I need to slow down. I need to change not just what I do, but how I do it. I want to change my way of being in the world. I don't want to race anymore. I'm tired of this rat race. I feel like a rat and a tired rat. So yeah, I think we so need to look at things and go, how am I showing up in the world? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I enjoying how I'm being? Are my priorities right? What needs to change? And I think for many of us, I think the slowdown has to happen. The prioritizing, and as I said earlier, turning that JOMO, the FOMO into JOMO. I think, we don't have to be at everything. We don't have to be invited everywhere.
Yeah, you said something earlier that you need to be in the moment. You need to own that moment. And one of the questions is, you might put value on how busy you are. Your customers might put value on how busy you are. Your family might put value on it. Or my family, as is my mum's side, I say, oh, boring. They're not interested, not in the slightest bit interested. Their lives are not at all interested in work or any of that kind of content. So why do we then still sometimes feel we have to make up time? We need to have it all. We need. How do we own not feeling that treadmill and suddenly we become a hamster for a moment?
I think, Sharon, you're talking to one of the, and I've discussed this in the book. So I've lived my whole life rating discontentment, believing that being discontent and unsatisfied is a beautiful thing. It's a driver, it makes you ambitious. But sometimes, those poor souls that we look at and we go, shame, look at their simple life. Look at their lack of ambition. I actually think they're teaching us something beautiful, that not everything is a race. And, what is it? Do I want to be busy or do I want to make an impact? And busyness, I think, is filling a little hole in our souls that we might not even be aware of. And I think for me, I've realized it's due to inadequacies in myself. It's due to lack of self-esteem. It's due to feeling I need to prove myself all the time. But how crazy, how often do I went into the shop the one time asking if they had 1 minute noodles because I didn't want to wait 2 minutes, It's so silly. Hannah thought her name was Quickly until she was 3 years old. I was quickly in the bath, quickly out the car. And she said, yes, mommy. And we do that and we're busy. But why? For what reason? So I really think, I think for most people that I know, one of the biggest challenges in life is how do I slow down? And what do I take off my plate? So I've got a suitcase the same size that I had when I was 18. But the problem is our energy is waning. We are getting older. There's so much at life being thrown at us, and we have too much in our suitcase, and we have lost the art of discernment. We're so busy being busy that we actually don't know what matters anymore. And I think to take that time to be introspective and to work out, literally analyze every little thing that's in your diary, every little thing in your calendar, every little thing that you do and say, is this something that is useful? Yeah, I think so.
I was going to sum up, but you've just done it extremely efficiently in your last 3 sentences. I'm not going to try and do that because I rather have left you to do it very successfully. That was just amazing. I'm sure you've had the opportunity to read some of the comments. There are so many people who are in this mode today who were too tired to slog on, but just managed to, and now feeling very uplifted. And people who are saying, this looks like the mirror, and I'm not sure I like what I'm seeing in the mirror, but I'm pleased you showed me the mirror. So I think there's a lot of people out there who have the opportunity to be in a much better place tomorrow when they start their routines than they were today when they started in a flat panic looking like a swan.
Fantastic. It's been a wonderful to spend some time with everybody, and thank you for having me, Sharon. It's an
Oh, it's
absolute
wonderful.
honor.
And thanks for being so part of the journey that we are in the chamber as well. It's lovely to work with you on some of the projects and just meet some of your wonderful friends we've already met as well. So thank you, Cindy. You're an absolute star.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
And thanks to everybody. Thanks for joining us. And the tape recording will be available I'm not going to ask Stuart when, but the next day or so. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.